Key time. Connection time is timed out. Please try again. What if I go to Facebook and make sure I'm logged in?
And on that profile.
It literally says we're live.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
And it also has Hector saying yum yum. So we've got, looks like we're live.
yeah. So live. Yay! Live for like the last minute. Ready?
All right, folks, we are live. I don't know. So it's a little after 4:20, but I'm going to be late to my own funeral, so no surprise there. It's 4:28. Welcome to Friday. We made it. It is Elevated Intel live at 4:20 on Florida Cannabis Action Network's channels. And we are here today. I'm Colette Florido. I'm the Vice President of FLCAN. And with me today is the very lovely Alex Johnson and the very lovely Hector Roos.
Thank you so much. But see you and Lady Alex, of course, TGIF. Welcome to the holy time.
Woo!
Made it.
Woo! It's summertime. It's hot. It's getting to that time of the year where things are melting very fast. So I think we're all trying to like duck in the shade, do a little bit less. A lot of parents are like, it's the calm before the fall school start storm. So hopefully there's some great discounts available at your local shops to help with your medications to get you through what you need to for stress relief. We did some traveling this week, and so I thought we would start there. It was a lovely weekend, last weekend out in Fort Lauderdale. And we missed Alex. I'm sorry, you had your own party going on. We'll tell us about that real quick. Because Hector, I lost your face again. Where did you go? In the meantime, Alex, tell us about your weekend.
Yeah, well, I had my mom was in town to celebrate her birthday, and then we had our high society Mary Walkers event. So that was a lot of fun.
I
Yeah,
love those Mary Walkers. So you're just getting out and getting some fresh air and
there's
community.
sunshine, exercise, conversations, a lunch after I had to miss, but we normally go to lunch afterwards, so
Hey,
uh, it's a good time.
good. This is a great time to get out and walk if you can get out first thing in the morning, especially.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to find community. One of the big things that I have seen when you work with folks in the cannabis industry is why they're there is anxiety, it's stress, it's issues that if we can get together and one, get some exercise in, get some good breathing in, and two, if we can meet up with community, I think we might be able to shake some of that. And so I hope that other people are jumping into it because it's a great opportunity to get to chat and get out for a minute and hopefully get your mental health in order, right? So
Yeah.
and Hector, we were out in Fort Lauderdale and had the chance to, we actually got to listen to Hector. He was one of our speakers. This was the Parabola conference, a 2-day conference. The first day, Friday, was for leadership focus. And then on Saturday was the community-based training session, much like what we do at Cannabis at the Capitol, right? A chance to understand the process and how to accomplish things, right? Tell us more.
That's right. So it was amazing to hear what people were, people from across the country descended into Fort Lauderdale, into the historic Sistrunk neighborhood of Fort Lauderdale, and we spent all day discussing and networking, especially on the first day, on what was working for people across the country, and how we can learn from one another to see if we can bring those accomplishments, bring those ideas to light in Florida. And I mean light on purpose, of course. Uh, the the exciting part is that if you think about it, a year ago, we would not have been talking about, would still be arguing about when is it that we're going to have the federal government declare that cannabis has a recognized medical use, and it's kicked off just this year that we're actually talking about. Now we're talking about implementation and how we're while we need to work together to avoid the problems of how the policies get implemented. The theme of the actual event was called People Over Profit, because what ends up happening is the patients, the consumers actually get lost in the discussion of policy because it gets driven by, well, by commercial
The
enterprises, right?
few, right?
And
The few with the
the
money.
few at the top, right? That are basically, I mean, it's not as vapid as the conversation with big pharma, but we're all, they're trying to get involved, of course. But the point is it was a great event sponsored by the Parabola Center. This is, I believe, this is their third or fourth such event. We were happy to partner with them as an organization to bring more activists in this space, to give them tools, network, and the biggest information, the biggest tool that you can give someone is knowledge, because ultimately, if it's an even playing field, what at the very least what prevents someone from succeeding is the knowledge gap. So we were filling a lot of gaps, and I was definitely filling my own gap, and it was fascinating to see. I was invited to talk about how to do coalitions with political parties, in particular, since we're somewhat in a closed environment in Florida with just really one party dictating policy across the state. But generally, the highlight is, hey, we're not. It's not all monolithic organizations. People actually do care about this issue, no matter what political persuasion they have, and there are opportunities to work together and find ways to move policy. And we did that in last legislative session, for instance. We just needed that one further step to really pass and start regularly passing and again, not a truly passing legislation that means something to consumers and to patients, and of course the caregivers and doctors and everybody that really is involved in this space. It was
Yeah, they
fascinating.
presented quite a case, about how it happens very quickly if we're not paying attention, how um, certain pieces come into play and in, just a matter of we've been waiting forever, and then all of a sudden it's just, okay, it's done. And here a lot of the people have been left behind. And so seeing those national case studies and being able to see, well, here's where, California went right, here's where, this state went wrong, this is where we saw some strengths, this is where, you could see the challenges. And I think people are watching Florida. I think people are paying attention to how these laws are rolling out and who is leading the charge and who gets to lead the charge, you know. So I know that the next piece of it is, well, okay, so that's high level. And so all those businesses need to be paying attention and need to be staying on top of it. And hopefully they're going to be watching both the federal rescheduling and also the state policy changes, because it's not over yet, but the fight is going on. But we've got to stay knowledgeable. You're right. I think education is critical right now in making sure that we have the insights on what will actually um, make of this, the idea of opening up the vertical integration process is one of the things that I think a lot of people are still looking at, and I don't think it's completely done, but I do think that we have some folks that are leading the charge there, and a lot of corporations that are going to win much larger than small businesses. And so that leads right into our federal rescheduling conversation, right? I mean,
And just before you get to there, Colette, how can people find out more information that was shared at the Parabola Center event? What's next steps?
it's a good question. I know that we'll be communicating things from our end, and I know that the website is where we usually share our information through our newsletter. So if you're following FLCAN.org and you are subscribed to our newsletters, you would be receiving updates like that. The big thing is really going to be getting out the vote, having the right people in position, continuing our relationships with the folks in the industry, because we've got lots of, sorry, not the folks in the industry, but the legislators, the legislative team, making sure that they understand who we are, because we have lots of, um, what happens is, they put a lot of stuff in the air all at once in session. And so we're really going to need eyes on different aspects of what's going on in the state. And so to me, coming along for Ambassador Weeks, coming along for the Cannabis at the Capitol, these are going to be great events that are going to allow people to get educated and be prepared for when session starts and people start trying to put bills in place, or for that matter, for us to be proactive with some of the bills that we're looking at developing, that, we continue to fight for the patients. We continue to fight for small businesses. We continue to watch, to fight for home grow. These are all things that we've not lost sight of, as well as, of course, trying to watch for workers' protections and family protections. We've got our Veterans Council that is reaching out to the state of Florida Veterans Association and speaking with them right now on how what happens at the federal level is going to be implemented here for our veterans in Florida. So all of these plates are spinning, and so it's kind of a long answer. I don't know, Hector, did I get you to the answer, which is?
I think you did. I think basically, I'm going to sum it up before we go into the federal rescheduling conversation, that we're the tip of the spear on reform, legal reform, and we're not waiting for a big like what the people have pejoratively called big weed to make the decision for us. And we're not waiting for basically we're not waiting for permission either. We're never going to probably never going to see another statewide referenda dictate what policy is going to be and what direction is going to go. It's going to be driven by us. It's going to be driven by consumers, by patients, by caregivers, by doctors, and certainly the various farmers that are already involved. So not rather than top down, this is going to start appearing much more organic and much more direct to the needs that are present. So and speaking of then again of what's been going on with rescheduling and what it means, and really, is it really, in the federal rescheduling aspect of it, to segue into that, then I think we should probably start with a quick reminder that, Florida Can and our partner organizations don't look favorably down on scheduling to Schedule 3. Because again, it comes back to who does that really help? Is that really helping consumers? No, the status quo is helping consumers a lot more than adding more regulation, more burdens, and in some cases recriminalizing the behavior that the feds have nothing to do with at the moment. If it's all being done at the state level, then adding another layer of government at the federal level with its policing and its requirements, is going to create a logjam of problems. But the news is the hearings are over. They ended last week, and now we're waiting to see what the decisions come as the decisions come down, as legal cases are being made, going through the courts now. Various people have filed lawsuits because the hearings didn't really include us. They didn't include consumers. They didn't include the small business owner, the patient. They certainly didn't include farmers. So they included what? They included prohibitionists. They included the big companies. They included lab testing organizations. But
But when you talk to Mike, who is on our
macro.
leadership team, Mike Krawitz, who's an international advocate and badass, he's definitely been watching this, and he just didn't have that concern that we didn't have the representation, because for the first time, it's everybody against Kevin Sabet. That's
Right.
what I took away. And so for the first time, when the you know,
The federal government.
when the federal government is agreeing with us,
Yeah.
then, you know, we really don't have as much of a fight. That said, you're right, because they don't hear what we're saying about that, you know, the fact that it just doesn't even need to be that scheduled. Perhaps certain forms of it, you know, just like corn. We talk about corn and how, like, you can have it regulated as a food, you can have it regulated as a feed, you can have it regulated as a biofuel, you know, and so sure, in certain circumstances, it probably would need to stay regulated, you know, and scheduled in a certain way. But a lot of these other pieces, my goodness, it's time to let it go. But it is hard for us to, again, it all comes down to education. How much do they understand about the plant, that it can be treated so many different, you know, in so many different forms? And so, yeah, our hands are in, you know, our future is in their hands right now. Do you feel good about that?
Well, it's always been in their hands, and we've just been pushing on them to steadily change things, and I think they are. Like you said, it is a different situation. Mike Krawitz is right when he says that the federal government representing our positions is better the first time, you know, and again, that they're not just repeating the prohibitionist points of view of those various organizations I will not name. Uh, you know, and we're going to see how it goes. It's still going to be a number of months away before we can finalize what this looks like. At least get an idea what it's going to look like. And there's still even challenges to the original order in regards to Schedule 3, because this question again is about rescheduling the plant itself into Schedule 3. So you're right. I think they don't have to do that. They could just pick different products that are synthesized or are derivatives, right, is the word I'm looking for, of the plant. They could certainly schedule them in each one of them and let the plant go. Like you said, let it go.
Let it
Uh,
go. Let it
and with
go.
that, we're seeing more and more changes in the public mindset, more studies and research. You know, I think this would be a great time to segue back to Lady Alex and the science update,
Yeah, she's got cool
if we
stuff
have.
to share. She always has cool stuff to share. Lady Alex, tell us what you've got.
There's so much cool stuff, and every time we all get together, I learn so many new things. It's exciting. So today, one of the art, I've got two different science studies. So one is from the Journal of Cannabis Research. They pulled together 105 different gene expression data sets from humans, animals, cell models, and they were looking to see how cells responded after being exposed to THC or CBD, to see what genes turned on or off, how strong the changes were, and if there was any patterns to it. And they found, as they looked at the gene markers, they were able to know what the cell was exposed to, THC or CBD, without even being told. Um, THC mostly turns on,
Fascinating.
yeah. THC is turning on genes that are related to like brain activity, neural signaling, stress response, inflammation. CBD is turning on more genes associated with like calming inflammation, immune balance, cell protection, and stress resilience, which lines up with kind of, you know, how we already, like I said, I love when science just kind of shows what we
You've
knew.
been saying it all along. I mean, your THC can help with some of that stress, but to repair, you go
You
to the
need the
CBD.
CBD.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I mean, it's we've been talking about this, and the idea that we can finally back it with science, because I feel like that's a common conversation when we're sitting in a legislator's office is, well, yes, but where's the science, you know? We have a lot of years, a lot of years. We're talking about a century's worth of just our own knowledge, we're not just talking about that though, because we can go back to ancient civilizations and its uses. But okay, now we have real science. Now we've got gene studies.
Yes.
So do we think that that's going to change the path of the future development of certain products or help impact the medical side of things? What are you thinking?
I don't know. I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, wouldn't we be able to know what genes people are having issues with? So it might be easier for them to know where CBD was needed or where THC, like maybe it's in formulating the ratio that they need or uh,
Yeah, I mean, you would think that this is what we've been talking about all along to say that we needed to have, if only we could have some sort of measurements to know what your body needs in the moment, just like when you get a blood test and you get your blood work up, you know what your, white cell count is and your red cell count is. This is a great way to be able to do that. And hopefully, yeah, hopefully it will give you the chance to get custom curated medicine.
right. Well, and I think too, okay, like gene, I have an autoimmune condition. A lot of people have autoimmune conditions. Is that a gene signal? And if we can figure out where that signal, like now, right now, it's targeting stress, but what else could we pinpoint down and target? Like what kind of healing is available for all sorts of people? I think it's pretty huge.
Yeah, very open spectrum of
Yeah. And then, so the other study, a couple weeks ago, I was telling you guys about how our gut microbes play a role in how edibles affect us. Well, it turns out the Frontiers in Pharmacology and Journal of Cannabis Research looked at how cannabis affects the gut microbes and found there is a difference in the gut microbes of cannabis users and non-cannabis users. They measured how that gut bacteria shifted, and those that use cannabis have a distinct microbe fingerprint. So they can look at your gut and know whether you use cannabis or not, which is pretty cool. CBD boosts the microbes linked to like lower inflammation, better digestion, improved immune balance. Again, more science to kind of go to show what we use CBD for. And THC's microbes were involved in metabolism, stress response, and gut brain signaling.
huh.
Hmm.
It's so do we think that do we know if they had healthier guts because of it in the end?
Yeah, so they had more of the healthy gut microbe, cannabis users do.
Okay.
So
Okay.
CBD they say has more of about THC is a sometimes it's got more mixed signaling and there's still more studies to be done, but CBD is showing a overall always like a healthier gut.
Awesome. And that's edibles only. That's ingesting it. It's got to get to the tummy. So though the breathing it in has its own benefits and uh, has its own way of helping, this would be very specifically ingesting. So it's another reminder why if you're using cannabis for medicine, using just one method, one delivery method, one route of delivery isn't necessarily going to be enough of what you're trying to address, especially if you're having whole body issues like an autoimmune disease.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
All roads are valuable.
It does remind me that the international panel that establishes the rules and establishes the rules for like the UN and for the treaty, the international treaty, have said that it's CBD with a little bit of THC is what is what they've recognized has the medicinal value, the medicinal benefit, pardon, that they are, which is what they established the recommendation to decontrol, in fact. So, in other words, they shouldn't be regulated because it's so obvious, doesn't create addiction, doesn't create, has all this medical benefit, well established. And that's what's been driving this conversation since they adopted that position, what, 3 years ago now?
Hmm.
And we've gone so far, we've come so far, and yet there's still so much to do in terms of the policy side of this. So, in the sense of look at what's happening in Virginia, it's a massive success what's happening over there, where they didn't need a statewide referendum and a very expensive campaign to get on to ask voters to approve something that's obvious, right? In order to create a recreational market over there, for instance, which just means responsible adult use here. And they did it by just a legislative action, right? But on the other hand, the state of Massachusetts politicians, they put on their ballot that they want voters to repeal their recreational programs and all their program, frankly, their medical program too, and go back to criminalization. So, which way, modern man, right? Are we going? So I'm excited that we're part of this movement. We're really at the. It's one thing to start seeing the change. It's another thing for it to be well established and to ultimately get rid of the stigma, right? Altogether in society. So we have a lot of things working in our favor now, but we have a lot more to go. And for those tuning in, you can join our fight at FLCAN.org, Florida Can Cannabis Action Network, FLCAN.org. So where do we go next? I guess, what is Florida Decides, Colette?
I and I want to circle back on this at the end. Okay, so don't let me forget. I have a question for you guys when we get back. And we'll go back to it. Okay, had to write a note down or my brain won't remember. So FL Decides, FLDecides.com. Here's a fun site that we have been playing on, but it has some really great content on it. FLDecides.org is a database of what the candidates and the active legislators are their stances on policies, cannabis policies. And FLCAN has worked in previous years to collect survey information. And so we actually just started up again this season to start getting that information. We're right at the primaries. And, I think it was Hector that came to us with this little nugget of knowledge, some defining margin that was like so simple. Do you remember what you were telling us the numbers were on that one?
It usually, in some cases, some of the legislative races in the primaries were decided by as few as 70 votes, but usually around 100 votes.
70 to 100
right?
votes. 70 to 100 votes, you guys. That's all we're talking about here. You would think that it's such a huge, oh my gosh, so many people in the state. But we're talking about these local elections, and I get it. They're not the governor that you see on the news and hear about, but all that stuff that goes on behind the scenes is being decided by these legislators. And if you've got the right team set up, the people that believe in the policies that we do, they're going to shift how the decisions are made. Obviously, ultimately, the new governor will have the opportunity to decide to veto certain things or move things along faster and what have you. But it's power to the people. This is the time to say, if you truly, truly, truly do not like these policies, here's your local level. And if you don't already know, and this is like really hard because I don't want to come off like you should know, because so many people we can't dig into this. Like it's really hard to dig into it. It's almost like a bad soap opera to have to watch. Who's doing something that's good versus who's doing something that's just knock your head up. You're watching it. So I get a lot of people just stay out and maybe they just do the major elections. But if you haven't yet, you can go to fldecides.com and you could look for your district, and you can even search. You just have to put in your information, your street address, so that it can tell you who your senator and what Senate district you are and what House district you are. And once you have that information, you can click on it and you can actually see you keep talking about this. I'm going to see if I can share it for you. Let's see if I can get that up.
That'd be great to see. So,
all right.
I'm going to quickly just segue and give a thanks to Lady Alex, her team in Jacksonville, and many others who been volunteering to call up candidates, legislative candidates, other people on who are going to be on the August 18th primary ballot, to have them fill out a questionnaire about where their positions are on our issues. And their responses will be publicized, and their not lack of responses will be publicized. And that way we can educate our voters, particularly like the 1.7 million people that wanted to vote for recreational cannabis. They signed a petition to get it on the ballot, and they were denied that right. So the alternative now is that they get to find someone on their ballot who supports their issue, who they can vote for, and can actually affect the policy change that they didn't get a chance to vote on. So yay, back to you, Colette.
There we go. Sorry about that. We don't have our usual fearless leader, Jody, at the helm here. So doing a little dancing. What's that?
Or Steve.
Or Steve, I know. Steve is our right-hand guy and doing all things technical. So here we are. This is FL Decides. And when you go to the homepage, you can find out just who is your representative. You plug in your information and it will find your districts for you. And then once you have your districts, you can look them up. So here you can either look at the map and see what the districts look like. For those who haven't looked, I'm here in Pinellas County, so I'm going to be right on this border. There's interesting information here, but I think, whoops, what I want to get back to is, so let's find one. There are certain ones here with the lightning in them, right? This little lightning rod. That's a signal that there's a primary election. And a primary election here gives us an opportunity to perhaps put in a new person that, to challenge the incumbent. And so this is an example for District 10, and Senator Broger is the current incumbent, a Republican, but up here you have two Democrats that are running for the primary candidate to go up against him in the fall election. So this is what you want to know about. Now, what they're looking into with FLCAN is it's going to be posted shortly, but what we're going to find here is if these folks have given us information, and now I want to be really clear, Senator Broger is listed as a 4.0 out of 5 on our measurement. So typically that means that he has done things that have been positive. So he has sponsored the bill for the physician certification for the medical use of marijuana. And then you can see some of these other ones. And then he's completed a questionnaire. And we were talking about telehealth at that point. So those are just a couple of the things that you can learn about them and who they are. And I think it's just a great tool when you're sitting there going, well, I don't really know much about my candidates. You can look your people up right here. And as we get information, we're going to be plugging that in for each candidate. And that is what Alex and her team and myself and Jody and Steve and Sabet, we had quite a few people jumping on that call and reaching out. And it's not as complicated as it seems. I mean, I don't like to do this part, but the reality is that it wasn't a difficult process. These are human beings. They just want to do something that's good for it's like somehow they get to be this villainous person in the back of my mind sometimes when they're, or they're going to be the hero, but they're up here. And the reality is that these candidates are, Matt the welder down the street who also wants to make for some changes. So these are some of the folks that can make an impact, and we just need to talk to them. We need to find out. And then they need to know that they're supported, or, oh, I don't know that policy is going to fly, at least not with, the majority of Floridians from what we've seen in the last votes. Right.
Which is a good opportunity to just mention that our votes, our elected officials are being decided at these primaries, the closed primaries, right? we've been talking about for weeks now that you had to have been registered before a certain deadline that's already passed to vote in the August 18th primaries. And now our next job is to educate the voters to elect people who actually are going to be the policymakers, because they're going to get elected almost basically one particular party dominates in one of these legislative districts. It's almost so whoever makes it out of these primaries almost certainly wins, and they're going to be the ones making policy decisions. So we're leaning into this because that's just what the law is. So
Right.
so that's why this is so important.
Right. This one's an interesting one. This is all this is in our area. And so for instance, it just tells you like currently we have somebody that's going to be timing out. He's can no longer sit in this position. And you have two people that actually have been on the House side, and now they're running for the Senate side. So these are folks that know what they're doing, and this is going to be an interesting race just because you have two strong candidates that will be here up against each other. So, and will their policies be better than a 2.8 out of 5? I'm hoping so. I'm hoping so. So that's where we really, you need to get in and understand there are a lot of candidates that, on both sides, on both parties and independents that have strong feelings and have made it known and are willing to work with cannabis, are willing to put policies out there that better, the lifestyles. And, those are the folks we want to find. And we need to just be asking those questions. Are you going to do this? Is this what because as this continues to shift, the numbers continue to show the popularity of the use of cannabis in the state. It is important. We're going to see that shift. We're going to need to see that shift from the legislative side as well. So
That's great.
go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, where on the website can people find direct their candidates to go fill out the questionnaire?
That is a good question. And I sent them over here to this. So let me put that in the chat for you, because I'm not seeing it jumping out here.
Yeah.
But I do know that we have it. We have that question. So yeah, and so there's a couple of things. One, if you've already registered to vote, make sure that you are ready to vote. Do your homework, ask the questions, go to some of they're having local meetups where you're getting to meet the candidates and learn about them. You can go and sit with them and have coffee or have a beer, whatever their event happens to be, but it's a great chance to learn a little bit more about what their platform looks like. And then now it's time to talk to friends. Now it's time to share this information. 70 to 100 votes is not a lot of votes. I think you have a few friends, everyone can reach out, make sure, did you register? Did you, even if they won't be able to make the primaries, they will still be able to vote later. So it's important that they do get out there to register. But the ones that have registered need to know about fldecides.com, and also, get some insights. Now, if somebody is really interested and wants to get a little bit more involved, we absolutely can use more folks with us with FLCAN.
That's on the website. Yeah, we're using flcan.org// we vote. So in other words, you can join us there. Tell us that you want to be we want to help, and we'll give you our activist kit that walks you through what's the question to ask, where's the questionnaire, and and more importantly, who are the candidates in your area that you can actually go and talk to, because they will pay attention to you. These elections are being decided by such small margins that them being reached out to by a voter, is going to make a huge difference, and I'm not exaggerating.
No, I mean, it is a big deal. And, look, obviously we're here talking cannabis because we love the plant and we all agree on that. But that doesn't mean that you can't also be looking at them for other policies and their platform on other things, because I think that, those of us who are looking at using this for medicine are probably also looking at other issues like healthcare and, anything along those lines that is protecting our families. So, how do they see all of those things? And I think, part of it is making sure that they understand that you do support it because, as we break the stigma, as we break away from what people thought a cannabis user looked like or acted like, now they can start to hear from people to understand why, we can't have this being illegal. We can't have this, we can't have local policies that are turning away, dispensaries or turning away events because they don't want to have cannabis. Because look, this is what we're looking for. If we've had no problem with the bars in town to be able to get together than to be able to get together for these types of events. So, I mean, I'm just saying that it's just an example of trying to make sure that they understand who is really using cannabis these days and that more of their constituents do support it than I think a lot of them might believe.
So Colette,
So,
I'll give you two more examples of what you just said that are going to be very interesting. One is veterans. Veterans were actually prohibited from being cannabis patient, going onto cannabis as a for medicine, for using it as medicine a couple years ago. The policy changed, and veterans still, some veterans, many veterans still think that that policy is the law when it's been set aside.
redefined,
So
right,
right, so now they can participate in the program, but the knowledge gap, right, is a big deal here. And what about the seniors who would like to switch over, but they also think that's not provided under Medicare or Medicaid.
right,
And now we know that the federal government is going to roll out a new CBD program just for them to try out. So
right.
again, I suspect that they're going to that knowledge gap is also going to be take some time for them to catch on.
I agree. I think a lot of this is just lacking the education and the continuous case studies, the real life examples of how somebody is functioning well and seeing improvement that they weren't seeing under their current, their previous, you know, medical plan that included prescriptions. So I think that we talked about the mental health aspect and the fact that people absolutely are in need of programs to help them with physical and mental wellness. That is something that I think we as a community have to keep pushing towards. And in that, recognizing cannabis as an option over opioids or over certain prescription medications is something that is still evolving. The physicians are still, taking this in. More and more are allowing for it, more and more are recognizing it, more and more are putting it into their plans with their patients. But it is still, we're not quite over that hump yet. We're still kind of on the up and up on it. And so we really do need to keep getting folks educated, talking about it. Yeah.
Yeah, we're still seeing the shared screen of fldecides.com, which is a great site. But
Mhm.
I want to remind everybody that if you want to be part of the solution, and that's transforming America and getting people away from harmful big pharma alternatives, particularly barbiturates that are based on very highly addictive and destructive opioids, then join us. FLCAN.org, FLCAN.org. Our big event every year that happens is our legislative program. It is Cannabis at the Capitol. Do you remember what's the date? Does anyone
March
who
9th.
remember? March 9th. Say it
March
again for the
9th.
March 9th. Yeah.
March
March
9th.
9th.
What's happening
Coming
on
up.
March 9th, Lady Alex?
We are going to be on the second floor rotunda with some sort. We have something different every year. We haven't decided what exactly we're going to have in there, but the theme is Prohibition to Progress. We're going to come together from all across the state, meet together, meet with lawmakers. Those that are new will have an opportunity to have, the trainings during them ahead of time. So it'll be
Nice. That's great. And then you can always sign up at flcan.org. I think that's the biggest event, our biggest event of the year. For those who, and before that, we also have our legislative visits, our ambassador weeks that are going to start I think in
Mhm.
January for this time around, right? Uh, yeah, no, and it's going to be great. That's how we met. I'm pretty sure that's how we met, Lady Alex. But certainly, I'm looking forward to it. We had, a huge turnout for the last year. And I just want to give it back to Colette and say, she had something on her mind that she wanted to remind us all about.
I will, and I'll circle back, and I want to support that. So, again, to the folks who it makes you feel a little twitchy talking politics, just know that this is a great way to get involved, follow what's happening, at least as it relates to cannabis. I'm sure that there will be other things that once you start to dig into understanding how to follow the bills, you probably could also, you'll catch some wind of other things that are happening in the Capitol and catch your attention specifically. So I have grown quite a bit when it comes to understanding the political process, and I highly encourage not only to, one, you follow us by, subscribing to the newsletter just to hear what's happening. That's when you get to hear about the Mary Walkers and when they're getting together, or when we're getting together to do a call campaign to our local candidates. Or if we're doing something, we have lots of fun things that we do that are also spread out throughout the year, like our new moon kayaking and our um, annual event in where the heck was that? Um, Cedar Key Fest.
See
So
Tiki.
See Tiki Fest, that's right. So we have all this great stuff so you can follow that way. But coming to the cannabis at the Capitol, you will get a lot more insight on the how to. And leading up to it, we'll have some training so you can actually start to hear about our legislative calls. We meet weekly when we go into session so that we can track all of the bills. And our gal Maria Hurley is the one that has done a great job of tracking them over the sessions. And it starts off with, oh, I think there's one or two, and then all of a sudden there's like 20 bills that could be touching on it. So it's really interesting to be able to follow that. The last thing I'll say is that if you really want to get a little insight and you're like, I really have been wanting to do this, ambassador weeks will be coming up prior to the March see cannabis at the Capitol, and we'll be having those by regions. So we'll get to go up to Tallahassee with other people from your region. And it's during committee hearings, so it's not nearly as busy as when they have legislative session happening. It's a little bit calmer. The halls are a little quieter. It gets you a chance to get acclimated with how to get around the Capitol, and then how to talk to your legislators and get to know some of the aides as well. So those would be things I would put on the radar, especially if you are thinking you want to, I'm so fed up, I need to roll up my sleeves and do something about it myself. That's something you can definitely do. So that's what I will say about that. Now, my question to you guys is, what is one thing that you do or are looking to do to break the stigma about cannabis in your own circle? Not like the public outreaching stuff, but when you get together with your family and your friends and the people at your community places, how how are you breaking the stigma there?
For me, that's a great question. And talking to family and friends, and even average people on the street that I work with, they understand that it's medicine. That point blank, and we can't apologize for that. We have to say this is medicine, and that people have gotten in trouble with the law in the past over this. And obviously, is that right? Is Do you approve of that? And obviously, at least everybody in my circle would say no. But again, I'm a libertarian, so I know a lot of libertarians. But even the ones that aren't, obviously they would agree that it's too much government, it's too much. It's just been bad policy, and it's a sign that it never made sense in the first place. But the solution is, they're all, I guess they somewhat disagree with where the solution is, what the direction the solution should look like, right? So the conversation really comes down to, at least in my circles, is what is that solution look like? Is it some kind of government sanctioned program like the Medicaid program that the Trump administration is rolling out, which is the CBD with a little THC, or is it just the cartel or monopoly that's got, with a number of single providers that are dominating the supply marketplace and the selection, right? So, or is it freedom? Like how much more freedom? How much freedom can we exactly have in this space for ourselves, right? Can we
Right.
can we do home grow? Can we purchase seeds? Can we juice at home? Can we build a market where we can actually sell, like we can treat the leaves like cabbage, because that's a legal route of administration, like Jody likes to say, to do juicing.
Right.
So, and those are the conversations. And thankfully, I mean, maybe I have to step out of my circle to to other people that would debate, that would talk about it in different ways. But for the most part, reasonable people think, are past the conversation, have long past the conversation about where that this should be criminalized, right? That this is a social danger, right? It's you know. Um, so, but that's where we are. Now we're talking about the solution, and that's a great place to be. I
What
leave it
about
to
you,
the
Alex? What do you have? What do you do in your circles?
Yeah, so I think, like Hector, I'm in many circles where that is not an issue. But I think part of breaking the stigma for me is, people get these misconceptions of like, oh, cannabis is gonna make you lazy, cannabis makes you these different things, and just showing that, sometimes people, often it's what I lead with. I work in cannabis, but sometimes people will be like, oh, wait, you use can, and you're like, it's an opportunity to be like, yes, I use it as medicine. It helps with this, or sharing stories of other people. That was part of Mary Walker's in a way too, was like, we're out here doing something healthy, getting together, enjoying wellness. And yes, we use cannabis as well. But that doesn't mean that we're not also these things.
Yeah.
So.
And cannabis. The story is whatever life is and cannabis, or
Yeah,
with cannabis, right?
it's a
Um,
tool in the toolbox. You
yeah.
would not build a house with just a screwdriver. So that you need all the
I
tools.
like that. I like your philosophy there. I would say for me, I'm working with I'm in that family zone, so I'm seeing a lot of parents. I'm also now crossing into hanging with my daughter's friends, the teenage group. So I'm having to watch the presentation of that, making sure that the education is clear. So I think I'm probably going to be that mom who's like, don't forget to cover your drink. Don't be taking things from strangers. Ask them where they're getting that from. Don't just let them hand something to you. Because I'm trying to normalize it, So what do we do? Like that's the type of breaking the stigma that I think is also having to happen is we got to educate the families and how they can show responsibility. Look, my kids have seen me taking shots, and it wasn't my proudest moment, but we were having a good time. Shh, we won't talk about that, but we were having a good time. But that was totally okay. There's no medical benefit. I don't have a medication or a recommendation for it. I'm not getting healthy because of it, and yet we do it. So we have to get to that point, I think, also from the consumer side. So that's my one little thought is how can we break that stigma? I'm having conversations with families and making it known that it can be consumed safely and that absolutely I still go about life with cannabis and cannabis. So just, as we're talking about trying to educate, maybe that's something that you just start with your own circle is, you know, making people comfortable being able to use it, letting them know, oh, maybe you're not drinking because you're using cannabis. Awesome. We support that. I'll go, let's go sit outside and hang out for a little bit, so trying to weave it into life. So I challenge folks to consider that. I challenge you to think about what you might be able to do to influence the votes this election season in a positive way, to make real change happen. Inviting your friends to come along with you to vote, get a car full of people. Who needs a ride? Let's get this done. We can knock it out and go have coffee. I don't know, make a date out of it. One thing we can do, just making it easy on people so that they can get their votes out. Did we cover it all? Is this can we make it can we call it a wrap here?
Think so.
Yeah, I think so. And it's great to great to be here with you and the Florida Can team here, and looking forward to a productive next couple months with while we develop. By the way, I'll say this last thing. While we're affecting the legislative elections or state elections, even for the people who are running for statewide, bear in mind we're still looking for those policy champions that are going to introduce the next set of legislation already for the next legislative session, and that's 6 months out before our ambassador weeks are even, and that's another 8 months before the actual legislative session. So look how far out we're already planning on what we want to accomplish. So we are, we're at the tip of the sphere, and I'm very glad to be with you on this 420 on Elevated Intel.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great weekend and enjoy the beautiful weather. Oops. All right.
We're still live.